Your teenage child has been diagnosed with functional neurological disorder, short for FND, and including non-epileptic seizures. And as a dedicated parent, you want to do anything to help your teen get better and then basically resolve FND so that you can get their life back, right? And that should include learning how to help your child avoid FND episode at all costs, which is very normal. And I hear that from a lot of parents. That's what they want to do, and that's why they want to learn more about it. However, let me tell you, if you think the avoidance of FND episode is the ultimate goal, then I almost can guarantee you that you'll likely be going into this permanent band camp of disability with FND. And I will tell you why. Hi, I'm Dr. Lee here. I am a pediatric health psychologist and founder of Teen FND Academy. Let me tell you, FND is a biopsychosocial phenomenon diagnosis. It is a real diagnosis. Your child is not making things up. And oddly enough, it is a very common diagnosis. However, nobody knows about it. I would bet, including you, until your child got the diagnosis of FND. I ask this every single family. Did you even know this diagnosis existed before your child got this diagnosis? And every single one of them says, no, we did not know anything about it. So they are basically trying to use all kinds of tools under their belt for something else, thinking what is going to work. And usually one of the things that they like to use is the goal of FND is to avoid the episode itself. So what's wrong with having this goal of avoiding FND, right? I mean, really, there's nothing really wrong with it, okay? It is, after all, very normal reaction to this unusual, crazy situation that you and your child are experiencing. I bet you your child didn't even ask for it, but somehow your child got sort of joined this club that they didn't sign up for, right? So what's wrong with avoiding FND? Well, there's nothing wrong with it. But here's the problem. If the avoidance is your focus, then I bet you that you're mostly focusing on, or where this avoidance is coming from is most likely a fear-driven thing. So meaning FND is bad. This is so annoying and this is causing a lot of trouble in our lives. So we need to avoid and prevent it from happening at all costs. What that means is you are basically telling the universe, the invisible script, that FND is a bad guy, therefore we need to get rid of it. Once again, I get it. There's nothing wrong with it. However, it's usually, again, coming from the fear, factor. What that means is that you're likely to be running away from FND like a fugitive. And what does fugitive do? I've never been a fugitive before, but I can only imagine, because they're always running away. They're always watching their back, like, who's following, am I going to be okay? So you will be also looking behind your back constantly, and then be hyper vigilant all the time. So what's wrong with this picture? Once again, very normal, nothing wrong with it. The problem is that your life is still revolving around, oh my gosh, there's a airport nearby, and airplane is really loud right now. Anyway, back to FND. Again, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But the problem is that you're constantly following this FND. So your life is still revolving around FND, even though FND is not there. So you're sort of checking yourself. Okay, we don't have FND, right? Okay, we're going to have to avoid this at all costs, which unfortunately the impact of that is that you're going to be living with FND for the rest of your life. So that's why there's nothing wrong with it, but usually it doesn't work. So what then? What should you be the goal, right? Well, I will tell you, there are 3 of them. So instead of focusing on the avoidance, I would say focusing on the return to your life. I would say gradually with baby steps. So things you're not doing anymore, things you're restricted to do, and this is specifically parents, I'm talking about you. Parents, if you stop working, if you stop doing ABC other things, then start gradually going back to that life. Why? Because doing that is going to be the perfect model for your child, that it is okay for your child to actually go back to their life as well. Now, is it going to happen naturally, automatically? Well, not really. You have to have skills, to do that. But that's the mindset. Instead of focusing on this avoidance thing with FND, start focusing on crafting how you can, or what kind of life you want to return to. So that's number one. All right. Number two, instead of focusing on the actual FND symptoms, once again, focusing on the strategies your child is using. Now, I talk a lot about FND being this dysfunction of autonomic nervous system. And so simply put, when your child learns to re-regulate or regulate her autonomic nervous system on her own, not because of you or by you or something or someone else, then your child is likely to be using the strategies or skills to rebalance their autonomic nervous system. So whatever it is that they're doing, as long as they're safe and healthy, and I do have some videos about what to do for teens, focus on the strategies instead of how many times, how much, how long, how often the FND symptom is happening. The pure drawing attention to FND is one of the big perpetuating factors of FND to be alive, which is exactly opposite of what you want, right? So there's that. Number three, instead of focusing on the FND symptoms itself, once again, focus on the progress of using the strategies and then return to life. So it's more like focusing on the half full instead of half empty. And I hear this from a lot of families, and rightfully so, I will say. So I get it, right? But they would say something like this: yeah, my child is better. It's getting better, but she still has FND. Yes, it's less frequent and less time each time it happens, but she still has it like once a week or once every other week, or they're somehow mentally or physically tracking these episodes. So I talk about the timeline that is actually the enemy for FND if you want to resolve FND. And so same here, forget the timeline, forget the clipboard, and forget tracking all of these symptoms, but instead track how many times you are also using relaxation, rebalancing strategies along with your child. That is something I want you to rather focus on than FND itself. So there's that, all right? So focus on returning to life gradually with baby steps, and focus on the strategies that your child is using, also yourself as well, and focus on the progress, half full instead of half empty. So overarching theme-wise, what can you do? Well, as soon as you get the diagnosis of FND for your child, accept the diagnosis, because it is a real thing. Your child's not making things up. And if you are not clear about why the doctor came up with the idea of the diagnosis, you have the right to ask. Okay, so I've never heard of it, so help me understand, what is this and how did you get to the conclusion, instead of some other diagnosis, okay? These providers, they have to have a reason. And I guess oddly or luckily, I do have a video about providers, what they need to be doing, to communicate better with you guys, all right? So feel free to share that video with the doctor if you feel like the doctor is not being clear. And then same thing, once you know the diagnosis, you have to know what it is and what is not, all right? Instead of, again, refusing to accept the diagnosis. So there's that. And absolutely find an FND specialist that you work with. And it could be in person, telehealth. Honestly, it does not matter as long as you're working with an FND specialist. Yes, there are some benefits to in-person versus telehealth, but the reality is working with FND specialists is so much better than working with non-FND specialists. Then you're likely to spin the wheel and then go into this never-ending treadmill cycle. So the choice is yours. Luckily, I do have some resources down here in the description box below. So check them out. And I am happy to also talk to you if this is something that you want to work on, and parents learning how to help your child really and actually and truly so your child can resolve FND. I can help you with that. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.